On this week's show, deal selling. Do you need your investors or your deals first?
In the news, we're going to be discussing the thinnest house in London, which is currently on the market for £1 million.
Welcome to the Property Investors Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an upload. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Enjoy this week's show and don't forget to share it with all your friends.
Hey, I'm Russell Leeds.
Hey, I'm Alistair Cunningham.
And welcome to the Property Investors Podcast. How are you doing?
Good.
Great, nothing down to that. Just
How
good.
are you? No, I'm all good, man. I'm all good. How are you?
I'm very well.
We're here again at the we're filming in the new studio.
We have just had Nando's for lunch.
We have, and I had they messed up my order and they brought me hot chicken wings, and my lips are still burning.
Really?
That's really hot, like crazily hot.
They were only hot. They weren't. There's two levels above that level of hot. You had hot, you had extra hot, and then extra hot.
Oh, I don't know who in their right mind would have that sort of temperature because it takes the
Elliot Spencer.
enjoyment. Does he have it?
He has Vindaloo.
Does he?
Yeah.
It just takes the enjoyment out of the food when you can't even taste it because it's burning your tongue and your lips. Wow.
But we're trying to snack healthily, so we've been having like fat-free yogurts, grapes.
Yeah.
Now you might look Nando's. Nando's, you can actually be quite healthy. I had just a plain butterfly chicken with corn on the cob and spicy rice. It's quite healthy lunch.
I do like the spicy rice from them.
Spicy rice is good. Spicy rice.
Do you know what? The other day, last week, Ricky was staying at my house, and we all know Ricky. We all know Ricky loves
Licky is his surname. Is his nickname for him.
We all know Ricky loves a curry. Being part Indian, he loves a curry. So we got a takeaway, and I ordered. For some reason, we ordered an extra rice. So they brought the rice, and about 2 days later, I used that rice, and I made an egg fried rice.
Okay.
Mate, it was beautiful. Honestly, like 2-day-old peeler rice.
Does it have to be 2 day old?
Well, it was 2-day-old. 2-day-old peeler rice
Right.
with vegetables and egg in there, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was the best egg fried rice I've ever had.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
And I normally mess it up, so
Well done, you.
I know,
Right,
interesting story this week.
Oh man, I bet they're on the edge of their seats
I bet
wondering
they
how
are.
old was
Mate,
your egg fried rice.
Can you imagine the matey boy that used to moan about us? Remember that episode we talked about the dentist? We talked about our teeth.
We did.
And he went on to rave and bitch about saying, get to the point. And we were like, no, we're going to talk about our teeth for the next 20
We had
minutes.
tea for a while, yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah, it's very, very hilarious.
It really was.
So this week we're going to be talking about, this is a question, and we actually got asked this question and we gave a very, very brief 10-second answer on last week's show, which is what prompted the full discussion, so which we'll say on this week's show. But when deal selling, do you start with the investor? Do you want the investors, or do you start with the deals? Because what most people do, this is where they ask the question, is they go and find a deal, and then they're like, what do I do now? Because I've got this deal, but I don't want to commit to the deal because I have an investor. But what do you do? It's kind of a balancing act.
It's a question I get pretty much daily. The common mistake I see, this is what happens, is you get somebody who's really keen to do deal sourcing. They love it, they're keen, they love the aspect of it, but they don't do it properly. What they do is they rush out there, look for investments, and they go away and they start putting offers in left, right and centre, and then they're like, hey, I've got a deal. And we're like, well, you've not got a deal, you've got an offer secured, okay? Now you need to sell it. But they don't do the homework of getting an investor in place. I see this all the time. I get people messaging me all the time saying they've put an offer on this deal, it's been accepted, but they've got nobody to sell it to. So it ends up becoming problematic. So look, I think it's very much a case of you've got to be doing both, but I think the investor comes first. I think when you're first starting out in your deal sourcing business, I think it work one-on-one with investors and actually try and find what they're looking for until you start, as you build that investors list, work one-on-one with people and get them.
But but I suppose the question then would be, if I'm looking for an investor and I don't have any deal, so I come to you and I say like, oh, Alistair, I'm a deal sourcer.
Yeah.
Would you like to be? Are you interested in me finding you some deals?
Yeah.
And then if I don't touch base with you then for like say 6 months, you know what I mean. So it is.
But then it's down to the deal sourcer to ask you the right questions. So if I was a new deal sourcer coming into this business now, I'd come to you and say, hey Russell, I'm doing deal sourcing. What sort of deals are you looking for? I'd be asking you what you're looking for. And I'd say to you, look, if I can find you something like that in the next sort of 8 weeks, are you prepared to pay me for my time to do that?
Well, I personally think there's if I was starting again, you've basically got two main strategies. One is what you just said.
Yeah.
So the first option is that you do bespoke sourcing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you go and find some investors and you say, what are you looking for? I will go and find it for you.
Yeah.
Which obviously means you're correct in what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You want the investor first.
Yeah.
And then the other solution that I would recommend as well, then we can debate which one's better, and people can obviously make their own mind up, but the other solution would be to co-deal source.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than finding investors, you find someone who's already deal sourcing and you say, hey, if I went and found you some deals, would you be interested in selling them for me? And then you go away, so you don't have any investors, you find the deals, and that way when you're looking for your own investors, you can say, here are some deals, here's what I made earlier.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. I do agree with that. Bespoke, to focus on yourself, and when you do bespoke sourcing, you really need to make it about the investor and what they're looking for, and then you need to go out and find what they're looking for. And I would say to them up front, look, do you mind, obviously, give me 8 weeks to find your deal, but can you pay me a little bit up front to cover costs? And most serious investors will happily do that. But then I do agree with you as well, if you want to find a company that's doing well, and I've got investors, a lot of them haven't, so find a good reputable company that has got investors and it can actually sell deals, and ask them, what criteria are your deals, what do you need for your deals, and would you mind if I co-source through you?
I would also be very wary of anyone, any co-deal source. If I said that to them, they went, yeah, sure, I'll do it. I'd be like, that was a little bit too easy. I would want a good co-deal sourcer to be going, well, what experience do you have?
Yeah.
What sort of deals
do you know,
find?
Obviously, within our company, we've got Ricky Mando from MP Sourced, and he does co-sourcing with people, and he's got criteria for becoming one of his co-sourcers. The absolute fundamental is you have to be trained. You have to have invested in training to get trained on how to be a sourcer.
Or experience. If it's been something you've been doing for years, if you're like, look, you've got to have one or the other, haven't you?
Yeah, but typically the people that are approaching Ricky are people that are new, or they've just come through the deal selling masterclass, things like that. And one of the first things Ricky does is he qualifies them to make sure they're trained. And if they're not trained, he'll say, look, go and get trained, and when you've done that, then come back to me. So that's great.
Fair.
And anyone, if you want to co-source, reach out to Ricky. I'm sure he'll happily work with you. But I know the criteria is you have to be trained.
Is it MP Sourced?
mpsourced.com or something like that. Ricky Mando, he's a co-host on here.
He's actually just nipped out the room.
He has,
So he's not here right now, but he's not a co-host, he's the cameraman.
Yeah, he's the cameraman. He's the cameraman. But yeah, find him, and if he'll accept you onto his co-sourcing, then good on him. So that's one way. And typically when you go to co-source with people, your job is to go out, find the deal, and do the due diligence. It's not their job. Their job is not to do your due diligence for them. So you don't think for 1 minute you can just send a Rightmove or a Zoopla link to the company you're co-sourcing with and they'll do all the work. That's not the case. You have to present the deal to them as if you would present it to an investor.
Yeah, all they're doing
is verifying.
You're doing everything. All they're doing is selling it.
Yeah,
You're
selling
doing all the work, all the due diligence, all the viewings, all that, and then their job is to match that with an investor. They are the ultimate middle. I mean, deal sources are a middleman anyway.
Yeah, of course.
But they are the ultimate middleman. I think one of the great things about being a deal sourcer is that your stock is free.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, normally if you're a middleman, you buy something and you sell it on. But with this, your stock is free.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm going to back up a little bit where you say they're just a middleman, because I work with a few co-sourcers. I don't work with many, so don't contact me because I don't do it. Okay, I work with literally a couple of people that have come through the academy program and that are making moves, and then I say, look, come in, let's work together. So
it's like your co-sourcing with you is like gold dust. It's like, if you get offered the chance to co-source with you, that's like. I'm
telling you, it is, because I'll tell you why. Because most of the problems come from co-sourcers not getting educated, not doing the work. Now, with my criteria is they have to have done everything as if they were presenting it to their own investor. So then what they do is they bring it to me, and me and my team verify everything they've done. So we'll dig deeper and we'll look into more things, and then we'll ask them to clarify things.
How deep do you normally go?
Deep enough. Yeah, deep enough. Anyway, so yeah, we do more in-depth due diligence, and then we get it ready then to sell to the investor. Then we handle the sale. So we find the investor, we handle all the legal aspect, and then we get it over the line. So the co-deal sourcer has no more interaction at that point, and they won't be involved with the investor. Now, I get this a lot because if I co-source with somebody...
Can I just say that you've slightly gone off track? I don't know whether I threw you slightly, but you were about to criticise me for saying that they're middlemen?
Yeah, because I'm telling you, because...
I want the argument.
I'm about to tell you.
Go on.
Because a lot of people say, text me and go, I've got this amazing deal, can you sell it? And we'll go 50-50 on the fee. Well, to me, that argument's always that's always a no, because the most I'll pay a co-source is 25%, and I'll tell you why. Because actually, finding the deal is probably the easiest thing. It's probably the easier of the two aspects. So you got the finding the deal, you got the finding the investor and selling it to the investor.
Right.
More deals will fall out of bed once they've been sold to the investor than before. So the nurturing of the investor is hard. The making sure it gets over the line is hard. And that's where most of the work goes into it. And they're my investors. They're not your investors. They're the investors that I've gone out there and bust my guts to build and to grow and to nurture. And I won't give them away. So
hold on. So you're still a middleman, though?
You're still a middleman, but you're doing a lot of work. You're not doing nothing. You're doing the vast majority of the work. The vast majority.
But deal sources are a middleman.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
That's a shame. I was hoping you would disagree with it.
No, of course I agree with that. I agree with that. We are middlemen. We take deals that are investments, we package them up, sell them to investors that are looking for deals. So look, co-sourcing is great. It's absolutely great. But don't think just because you're co-sourcing you don't have to do anything. Your job is still to do due diligence, still to find the deal, still to view the deal, still to get builders quotes, still to do all of that. And then you come to the sourcer, and then we will analyse and go deeper into your due diligence, and then if it's good enough, we'll sell to our investors. And then you'll get paid at the end, if the deal completes. If it doesn't complete, you don't get paid, just like I don't get paid. So it's a great way to start. Reach out to MP Sourced and Ricky Mando if you want to co-source, but again, you have to be trained. Deal Selling Masterclass. If you want to do co-sourcing, come along to Deal Selling Masterclass. We've got a live one in 2 weeks, actually. So yeah, anyone wants to come do that, let us know. So yeah, that's one way. Now, bespoke sourcing is another way. That's where you can, you go to an investor and say, look, what are you looking for? I can give you that. Can you pay me a fee up front? And I'll go away and I'll find what you're looking for, present you the options, and then you go ahead and buy the deal. So look, to ask the question, what comes first, the deal or the investor? I think it's a bit of both, but I'm more aired towards the investor. I would focus on finding the investor first and over finding the deal.
Because like we mentioned at the start, I don't know whether we've answered the question enough, but for people that have gone and found a deal, secured the deal, and now they're desperately... You see them all the time on Facebook, don't you? Oh, I've got this deal, and then the next day they're posting it again. Got to go soon, and you're like, okay, this person's desperate because they're in hot water now with the agent. Because the problem is, in case anyone doesn't know, the problem is if you're securing a deal, the agent's then going to be hassling you for lots of information that you don't have, because you don't have that information until you have an investor, such as maybe proof of funds or ID and all that sort of thing. So once you've agreed it with the agent, you're in a bit of a sticky situation. So one of the ways to combat that, if you don't have an investor, or if you're not sure if someone's lined up, is rather than actually agreeing it, you use an if-would clause. You'll say to the agent, if I was to offer you £90,000, obviously I've got to check with my business partner, but if I was to offer you £90,000, what would they say? And they'll come back and say, I've spoken to them, and if you offered 92, then you'd probably have a deal. You can then go away, you now know you'd get it for 92, but you're not committed with the agent, so now you can find your investor. That's one way around it. The problem with that is, if it takes you a week, 2 weeks, or however long to get your investor sorted, you might go back and it might have gone.
Yeah.
So it is worth having a pool of investors first, or
I think so.
Having a co-deal source, or having someone that is lined
you
up. Yeah.
I always say this. People say about co-sourcing. I would say, look, co-sourcing with somebody is a backup to your own investor. So it's when you can't sell it to your own investor, then they go.
Or when you're getting started. Or when you get started. I think
it should always still be a backup. I think even when you're getting started,
I don't agree.
You should be focusing on building your investors list. So I tell anyone that co-sources with me, I always say, have you tried this for your own investors first?
But the nice thing about co-deal sourcing is you don't have to pay for all the
compliance.
Yeah. So I always would say, and I mean we say this on the Deal Slow Masterclass, is it's best to co-deal source your first few deals, get a little bit of experience. Because it might be that you said that you go deep on their deals. It might be they bring you a deal and you go, no, that's no good because of this. And then you've learned something, haven't you?
One thing. Right, people that come and do co-sourcing with me, they some of them treat it like a training program, and I'm like, dude, this isn't a training program. Yeah. This is a co-sourcing opportunity where you can bring deals, and we'll have a look at them deals.
Yeah.
And we'll give you a little bit of analysis on deals, but we're not here to train you or mentor you in how to find deals.
It's real life experience, though. Yeah. So it's not
it's like work experience.
Yeah, it's not a training program, but if you turn it down, you'll be like, Alistair turned that down. I wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder why. Yeah.
Okay, because you'll probably say, look, it's no good because of this.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, I'm learning something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Rather than you just selling it and then having a problem on your hands or a refund to deal with, etc. So it's a bit of real life experience as well.
And the reality is with deal sourcing, deals fall out of bed. Like the reality is that is what will happen. 40% of deals fall out of bed, and that's a statistic across the UK. 40% of properties don't complete, and then you've got a problem with unhappy investors on your hand. We're like, well, I bought this deal from you, it's not completed because there's damp or because there's this or because the property's got no roof or whatever, and then the investor's then going to then kick up and say, well, actually I want my money back from the refund, or
and how you deal with that.
So you need to know how to deal with all that sort of stuff. You need to know your terms and conditions and your rights, their rights, and ultimately you're building a business which on the back of your reputation depends whether or not you'll sell or not. So you have to look after your investor as well. It's really, really important. So I think there's no right and wrong answer to this, but I think massively focus on the deal and on deal sourcing. Focus on the investor, building your investors, and then find the deals when you've got investors that are prepared to buy. I
agree. Now we mentioned earlier, we're actually here at the Property Investors Crash Course right now. That is taking place in the studio downstairs. We are upstairs. Alistair has literally just come off stage. He's just done about a 4-hour stint teaching deal selling along with Samuel and Ricky. So if you're interested, we're doing these on a reasonably regular basis. So if you go to property-investors.co.uk, book on, it's £1 and you get to see Alistair himself, who along with Samuel and Ricky, going through. You got about 4 or 5 hours on deal selling, probably 4 or 5 hours on how to find deals, how to package deals, how to sell deals, and it's £1. Nothing to lose. So I look forward to seeing you guys at the next virtual crash course, and hopefully with the news earlier the last couple of weeks, hopefully at live crash courses again.
I can't wait, man. I cannot wait to get back to live events. So according to the government, from May 17th we'll be able to run large events, so up to 1,000 people inside.
Fingers crossed.
Touch wood.
Cross toes.
Cross everything, and then let's get back to live events. Can't wait to fill a room up with all budding entrepreneurs, budding investors, and start teaching people to go off and kick some ass and change their future. It's amazing. So I can't wait for that.
Awesome. So we'll see you guys at the next crash course. Right, it's now time for this.
Okay, now it's time for the news, and in this week's news, I was looking through the news articles recently, and this news article sort of stood out and punched me in the face, purely because it's nearby where I live.
I like the article already.
Yeah, purely because it's nearby where I live in London, and I've actually driven past this house before. But in London, the UK's thinnest house at just 6 foot wide, at its widest.
That is crazy.
Is on the market for sale.
At its widest?
At its widest, yeah. Is on the market and for sale at £1 million. So it's in Shepherd's Bush.
Just to put that into context, if you're like a metric person or whatever, 6 foot is shorter than me.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to lie down.
You'd have to lie long ways
in the house.
So the house is at its widest, 6 foot wide. It's in Shepherd's Bush. I know where the property is. I drove past it before, and it's on the market for £1 million. Like, it's just absurd.
If you were like design, do you know like when you obviously like we're buying land and stuff at the moment, and you're looking at some stuff as well. Like, can you imagine if you're like looking at the land and you go, okay, well that is 36 feet across. You get 6 houses, 6 terrace houses in there. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? How long back
do you know? Oh, I don't know. It doesn't say. Do you know? It looks like, because the house was built 150 years ago, so it looks
what was I
like.
Thinking?
I think what they've done is they've had 2 rows of terraced houses, and then it come to an end, and that was probably a walkway, and they said, I know what. We can build a house in there. So they just bricked up the front and back, stuck a door in it, and said there's a new house. And it's just
How would you even get a bed in it?
How wide?
Well, I suppose there's that 4 foot, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true actually.
About 4 foot, isn't it, wide?
Imagine all like the furniture.
That's
like,
small, but you can get my bed. It wouldn't get.
No.
It'd be too big.
Imagine like all the sofas and like how would you even get a kitchen in it? It'd have to be like a long galley kitchen and things like that. It's just crazy. It's just ludicrous the price of houses in London for what you get.
Where is it in London?
Shepherd's Bush, West London.
Oh, that's an expensive area.
So it is a very expensive area. I mean, I live in Fulham, and it's a very, very expensive area. Like my apartment, which is like actually realistically,
it's actually worth more than that skinny house.
It is. My apartment is 2-bed apartment. It's about 800 square. No, it's about 1,000 square foot or something like that.
I just think it would be surreal being in that house. I mean, how would you have your furniture? You'd have to have everything in a line. You'd be able to sit and talk to someone, would you? You'd have to all be just sitting in a line.
Can you imagine having
TV on that side of the wall.
I wonder if we should go and view it. Because it's for sale, isn't it?
I'd love to view it.
Should we go and view it?
Let's view it. Would you guys like to see us view it? Do a little video tour?
I'd love to view it.
Is there a video tour?
I think there is a video for it.
Oh, that's amazing.
We'll have to go and view it and see what it actually looks like. But it's just crazy. £1 million for a house that's 6 foot wide at its widest. It's like at its widest, 6 foot wide. It's just utter crazy. Somebody will buy it, though. That's the thing. It's like what we were talking about last week, the double-decker bus. Somebody will buy it.
I'd rather live in a double-decker bus.
Okay, I was just going to say, what would you rather? Live in a £1 million house that's 6 foot at its widest, or a double-decker bus?
A £1 million house, please.
Oh, really?
Well, what about you? I mean, put it this way.
The bus is actually only 8 foot wide, so it's only 2 foot wider.
It's narrower than the bus.
Yeah, the buses are 8 foot wide.
That bus
Double-decker bus
so
is typically
narrow.
Double-decker bus is 40 foot long, but 8 foot wide.
That's just crazy. It's just it blows my mind that they could even try and build a house. I mean, it was 150 years ago, but you'd never get planning for that now, would you? Can you imagine if you had one house that was 12 foot wide and tried to split it into a semi?
Yeah, I'll do a title split on that. It's too big. I wonder who lives there. It must be like Warwick Davis.
It's the sort of thing you'd see on like the Mr. Men book. Mr. Thin. Mr. Thin lives in this house. He's a really thin house. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.